perfectly still, and just now he looked like a carved statue, alabaster and ebony and gold. "No, I'm not troubled," she said, aware she'd hesitated way too long before answering him. She shivered a little. Here in the desert at night it was icy cold, though it would warm up nicely by midday. "I won't be here then," she realized. But Morganville would go on without her. That seemed weird. "I am surprised you did not bring your friends to say goodbye," Mernon offered. He sounded cautious, as if he was far from sure what the etiquette of this situation might be. "Surely it's customary that they see you off on such a journey." "I don't care if it is," she said. A tumbleweed, a thorny skeletal ball of nasty scratching branches, rolled toward her and she sidestepped it. It plowed into a tangle of its fellows that had piled up against the base of the billboard. "I don't want them to cry. I don't want to cry either. Look, it's hard enough, okay? Please don't." Mernon's shoulders lifted in a minute shrug. For the first time, as he turned his head away, she saw that he'd secured his ponytail with a big black bow. It fit what he was wearing, and it was weird that it didn't look out of place on him. He looks like Mozart, she thought, or at least how Mozart had been dressed in the paintings she'd seen. "It must have been easier when people dressed like that," she said. "Being a vampire. People made their faces white with powder, didn't they? So you didn't stand out so much." "Not just their faces," he said. "They powdered their wigs, too. One could choke on the arsenic and talcum. I can't imagine it was good for the lungs of the living, but one does what one must for fashion. At least the women weren't tottering around on 5-inch heels, constantly in peril of breaking bones." He paused for a moment, then said, "What made it easier for vampires was that we lived by candlelight, lamplight. It makes everyone look healthier, even the sick. These harsh lights you favor now, well, difficult. I heard that a few vampires have taken to those spray tanning salons to get the proper skin tones." She almost laughed at that, at the image of a badass vampire like Oliver, ferocious and fearless, standing around in a Speedo to get himself painted. But Oliver had left Morganville too, now banished from Amelie's side, where he'd been ever since Claire had first come to town. That had probably been the right thing to do, but Claire felt bad for him. A little. He'd betrayed the founder, but he hadn't meant it, and he hadn't had a choice. If any vampire could survive in the human world, though, it would be Oliver. He was clever, ruthless, and mostly without a conscience. Mostly. "You can still change your mind," Mernon said. He was perfectly still except for the wind ruffling his clothes and the bow on his ponytail. He didn't try to meet her eyes. "You know you don't have to leave. No one wants you to go, truly." "I know." That was all she'd been thinking about for hours. She hadn't slept, and her whole body ached with nervous tension. "You're not the only one to tell me so." Caine, for instance. Though he'd been quiet about it, and gentle. It wasn't that she was angry with him, God, no, but she needed desperately to make sure that he trusted her as much as she trusted him. She loved him. That was what made it so hard to do this. She needed him. But he'd screwed up big time in believing a big lie about her told by one of their enemies. He'd actually believed that she'd been sneaking around behind his back with his best friend, Michael. She needed to think about how she felt about that disappointment on her own, but all she could really think right at this moment was how much she wanted to feel his warm, strong arms wrapped around her, his body shielding her from the cold. How much she wanted one more kiss, one more whisper, one more everything. "The world out there isn't like it is here," Mernon said. "I know it hasn't been easy for you here, and I've been a significant part of your challenges as well. But Claire, I do know something of the world. I have been in it for hundreds of years, and although technology